Okay, hello everyone. Good evening or good morning, depending on where you're joining from. Before we start, let's do a quick sound check. So if you can hear us clearly, type yes in the chat. And if you can see the slides, type OK. All right, thank you. I see the chat is moving. Perfect. So my name is Alan, and today, together with Professor Hans-Georg Heinrich, we'll take you into a world most people only see from the outside, and that is the world of international missions, crisis environments, and high-stakes decision making. So
Welcome, everyone. We're really glad you're here. I'm Hans-Georg Heinrich, co-founder of ICEUR, ICEUR School of Political Forecasting and Consulting. What we can promise you for today is that the next hour be dense, practical, and maybe even transformative for some of you.
so the purpose this webinar is very clear. It's to show how professionals prepare for work in complex, unstable, and high-risk international environments, and how you can build the same skill set. Whether you're already in the field, preparing for deployment, or simply exploring this career, this session will give you clarity, structure, and direction.
Now we have a little request. We would like to get you to know a little bit. So please write in the chat first your background, very briefly. Second, why you joined the webinar today and why you were here. This is because we would like to understand your goals so that we can take examples to your context. Are you either working in diplomacy, in the humanitarian sector, in journalism, in military or security, in political research? Are you planning to join international missions for the first time? Are you studying? So please give us an idea about your backgrounds.
Exactly. We want to understand your goals so that we can really tailor our examples to your context. So, yeah, please write in the chat why exactly you're here, and you don't forget this is a shared space because everyone in this room has the desire to grow, understand crises management better, to make more informed decisions, and to be useful where it matters most. So, here's what we'll go through today really quick and just summarize. So, number one, how international missions really work in unstable or hostile environments. Why most professionals feel unprepared and how to change that. What skills actually matter when everything is uncertain. And the six module framework behind our mission ready course. Then, additionally, the fifth point will be real stories from missions, students, and field scenarios, and as well, why structured preparation completely transform your career trajectory.
And of course, we'll be ready and glad to answer your questions at the end of this webinar. We also would like to reward people who invest their time fully. So if you stay with us until the very end today, you will receive first a free copy of Anatol Lieven's lectures for ICEUR. Let me add, Anatol Lieven is a seasoned war correspondent, a journalist, and he really has gone to places, especially to dangerous places. And you can really learn a lot about what happens in these regions on the ground, and you can admire his abilities for analysis.
Yeah, and truthfully, that last bonus alone can change the way that you think about uncertainty in the field forever, just from his expertise. And so now let's just quickly introduce ourselves, the speaker. First, that would be me, Alan. So I'm Alan, a graduate of this program, and now working with international businesses and organizations in risk assessment and strategy support. This changing really, helped me change the way that I approach complexity. And today I'm here to share that journey and help you understand what's possible. And now move
I'm
over.
Hans-Gert Heinrich. My background is an academic career in political science, but I'm also a practitioner and former mission member with OSCE and UN, as well as several NGOs. For many years, I've been working in conflict-affected regions, consulting and training professionals who operate in difficult environments. My major long-term deployments were in 1999 to 2001 under the Austrian chairmanship of the OSCE, and in 2003, 2005, roughly speaking. Before and after these periods, I was deployed or seconded to various short-time missions. Together with Dr. Doris Vogel, my long-term colleague and expert in humanitarian operations, we lead this mission-ready training.
All right, so before we dive straight into the content, I want to give you the big idea behind everything that we'll talk about today. So, working in complex international environments obviously isn't just any job, it's a pathway, a bridge to a different kind of career. One where your decisions really matter, where your expertise grows exponentially, and where your income reflects your responsibility. Where you gain access to opportunities that most people will never see. So you can think about it this way. When you learn to operate confidently in uncertainty, every other area of your life and professional uh, career path comes easier.
Exactly. This is a very important term we use, uncertainty. Uncertainty is all around the place. Uh, Most people let uncertainty freeze them. Their uncertainty. We want certainty too, but we have to take account of the fact that it is there. And it's especially professionals who learn to read it. And if you learn to read it, you become a professional. And those who master this skill becomes the ones international organizations search for, because these people can be trusted when everything is unstable, messy, unreadable. This field changes career because it changes the way you think from reactive to anticipatory, from overwhelmed to structured, from hope I'm right to I can justify my decisions, from local roles to international competence, and from ordinary jobs to high value mission critical roles. So the real question of this seminar is not, is this course useful? We surmise that it is. The real question is, how far do you want to go in your international career? And do you want clear paths to get there? And with that, let's begin the contents section of this webinar.
Okay, so I will basically start off with how all of this really influenced and changed me personally and what it did for my own career. So, yeah, when you work in unstable, high risk, or politically sensitive environments, you very quickly understand that nothing ever goes as planned or predicted. So, information is incomplete, risks shift overnight, and you often have to make decisions long before you feel ready. So, important factors where I had a lot of knowledge and expertise to gain, such as structuring uncertainty and being critical in my assessments and concise, as well as systematic methods for forecasting. All of these I had a lot of expertise and knowledge to gain from this program. So this program really changed the way I work and gave me a framework for understanding chaos and a method of, yeah, for making sense of uncertainty.
What Alan describes is exactly what we came to see and come to see across diplomatic, humanitarian, military, and analytical fields. People are highly motivated, but they're often sent into complex environments with almost no structured preparation. They rely solely on institution. That's very natural. They rely on experience or on institutional memory. But today's crises are far more complex. There are overlapping conflicts. There are hybrid threats. I don't think I have to explain this to you. There is a lot of political instability all around the place. There are climate-driven disasters. And between uh, yeah, those two sides, I would like to give you an example of my own learning process. When I entered the field, I had no idea. I had no structured preparation or very little structured preparation. And my knowledge at that point was clearly unsatisfactory. I will give you a very concrete example of what I learned and how I could put this information uh, to through. When I was seconded to the OSCE mission in Chechnya in 2000, one of my tasks was to analyze the state of human rights violations. The head of mission mandated me to provide an estimate of the probability of persecutions. That's a hard task. Believe me, at that time, GeNIe 5.0 had not been released, but my academic background in statistics had already familiarized me with the Bayesian reasoning. So instead of producing a single definitive number, I approached the problem in terms of conditional probabilities and scenario. And let me tell you, I really had a hard time. The data situation, which is understandable, was extremely challenging. Information was fragmentary, messy, inconsistent, politically sensitive, and riddled with uncertainty. On top of that, the human mind can only juggle a limited number of interacting factors at once. My initial back of the envelope estimate was that approximately every 15th person in Chechnya could have been afflicted by various acts of persecution. And that excludes even acts committed or threatened by non-state actors, so feuds between the various clans and something similar. Well, this was a good starting point. I know it was noisy, too rough to be analytically satisfying or operationally persuasive. Had I been trained back then in the Bayes Fusion GeNIe modeler, the task would have been both easier and considerably more robust. A Bayesian network would have allowed me to decompose the overall uncertainty into its constituent dimensions and progressively reduce noise by integrating additional variables such as region or district, capturing spatial variation and risk, reliability of reports, reflecting source uncertainty. Previous involvement in military action, which understandably raises individual risk levels, inter-class and clan conflicts or local grievance structures, conditioning the exposure and patterns of sweep operations or troop deployments affecting local intensity. You will learn all this in our course. How do you model such a situation to arrive at a result which you can easily handle and explain, which you can be sure of? By structuring these factors into a coherent probabilistic model, I could have produced a much clearer and more defensible risk profile. One that is easy to explain to decision makers, even to heads of mission, fully traceable in its logic and grounded in a solid mathematical foundation, which, however, is hidden. You don't see it. The program does it. You have to have an understanding what is going on, but the math is done by the program. So don't be afraid of math and statistics. This experience later shaped my deep appreciation for Bayesian modeling, its ability to make sense of incomplete data, to incorporate expert judgment transparently, and to transform a possibly complex problem into an analytical, manageable, and communicable framework. Another example is a little more general, but I think you will understand its use. As I and Alan will explain a little later in a second, report writing is a basic skill in missions. You do report writing all the time. Different kinds of reports, spot reports, situation reports, analysis, and all that. And if you use the usual rhetoric, it could be that you will be misunderstood. For instance, if you describe a situation as volatile but stable, what does that mean? It is a message to decision makers to have to react to that. In many cases, it would make more sense to produce a figure, a probability, or an interval. So an armed conflict, for instance, is possible between 30 and 50%, or whatever. And for that, you need Bayesian modeling. There is a famous example from world history. You may remember the invasion of the Bay of Pigs in Cuba, which was a dismal failure. And one of the factors that led to this failure was the information given by Richard Bessette, who was an advisor to President Kennedy, and he spoke of a fair chance of success. Now, to his colleagues, he had mentioned a 30% chance, which is very different from a fair chance. So in many cases, it would make sense to do a little analysis and produce figures. That's why this training exists, to give professionals a systematic approach that combines practical field wisdom and analytical foresight tools, hopefully without casualties. Okay. Between Doris and myself, we have decades of, or long years in my case, in OSCE, UN, and NGO missions, EU missions too, from Afghanistan to the Balkans, from the South Caucasus to Central Asia. We've seen how decisions in the field save lives and how wrong assumptions can cost lives. What makes our teaching different is simple. We only teach what actually works in real missions. At least this is our ambition. This is what we would like to put across. We have trained and consulted on various occasions diplomats preparing for OSCE, UN, and other deployments, humanitarian coordinators entering conflict zones, military analysts planning patrols and security operations, journalists reporting from volatile regions, and students who later joined international missions.
So yeah, I have seen several fellow students from Transform during this program as I was a part of it. So basically to just give a couple of examples of where this all can go and to which directions, it's like diplomats becoming confident in assessing escalation paths instead of guessing about them. It's for humanitarian workers learned to plan safe operations with far fewer surprises, or security officers finally understand how to turn messy field data into actionable insights. And as well, analysts actually who, for the first time stopped drowning in information overload and started producing structured, reliable forecasts. So basically, their point A was almost always the same. It's, they're already trying their best. The method they have is not clear. So basically, their point B, after the courses, they now understand the logic behind chaos and can much better deal with it and explain it to others.
We have trying to we have been trying to take you through a structured and progressive path, which includes understanding high-risk environments, how to read instability, volatility, and hostile conditions, which means that you have to assess situations under uncertainty. Second, local knowledge and reporting. Missions may fail without high-quality field analysis. Actually, this is also a part of the daily bread of missions. You go out to the field and talk to people. You have to know how to do that. How to collect, filter, and structure information that really matters. Third, crisis response in unpredictable conditions. Security risks, sudden changes, hidden triggers, how to respond effectively. Self-assessment may be a good foresight tool because it opens your biases, gaps, and behavioral patterns and how they influence your decisions more than the environment does. The role of mandate and mission strategy, this should be heavily underlined because the mandate sets clear borders. You have to mind the mandate. You can't act effectively if you misread the political and strategic framework of the mission. And last but not least, we're talking about GeNIe 5.0, the modeler developed by Bayes Fusion, integrating technology, how to combine field intuition with structured analytical tools. And we mainly use GeNIe 5.0 and some other tools developed by Bayes Fusion. This sequence builds, this is what we hope, the complete skill set needed for the international work in complex environments.
Yeah, so what are skills that you must have in order to work in crisis environments? So these are core competencies that this field demands. So regardless of whether you're a diplomat, humanitarian worker, analyst, security officer, or also journalist. So basically, the ability to assess unstable environments is number one. Understanding escalation and risk patterns, decision making under uncertainty, structured reporting, and also cross-cultural sensitivity and communication. Point often overlooked, but very important. Also have operational planning in low resource settings, personal resilience and self-awareness, especially when things don't go as planned, and capability to combine institution with data-driven reasoning. So these skills are no longer nice to have. They're the minimum baseline for international missions these days.
I've announced a minute ago that the daily bread, or part of the daily bread, of any field mission is reporting. You wake up in the morning, think of the report you have to present, of the report you have to write, and waiting for the commitments issued by your bosses. Yet producing reports that generally make sense requires much more than simply documenting events. It demands the mastery of the art of information retrieval. In environments where hard data are scarce or unreliable, the most valuable source are often, in most cases even, the people on the ground. This means that structured interviews with the relevant interlocutors become the primary tool for understanding reality. Here, cultural awareness, local knowledge, and empathy are indispensable. Without them, access remains superficial and information remains incomplete. With them, one can navigate complex social landscapes, reach people others cannot, and interpret signals that would otherwise be invisible. Again, I can give you a concrete example from my mission to Cambodia uh, between 2003 and 2005. This was in the framework of a public health project run by a German NGO, which by now has become a part of the German Ministry of Technical Cooperation. And they ran this project in what, with full justification, can be called a messy environment. So one of the tactics we used was asking the local population, and there is actually an, a methodology that can be used in these situations called free listing. So you ask people, for instance, which plants do you use as medicine? So it gives you the name of prime plants. And you ask the next interlocutor and so on and so forth. And in contrast to the dominant statistical frequencies approach, you don't need 300 people, 500 people, 1,500 people. You interview or you talk with 10 people and you get a good oversight and a good insight. So this is cultural awareness and local knowledge. My colleague, Dr. Doris Vogel, who unfortunately cannot be with us today, will speak about her work in the Luhansk region after the Maidan events in 2014. Her mandate involved establishing and maintaining contacts with an unusually broad spectrum of actors. Among others, regular Ukrainian military units, but also a range of non-regular armed groups such as the Ghost Brigades, the Army of the Southeast, various Cossack formations, Chechen contingents, and others. Each of these groups, you may understand this, immediately required a distinct approach, adapted to their organizational culture, their worldview, and the level of trust or suspicion. Some groups were even considered taboo by the mission leadership, which made the task of engagement even more delicate. So Doris will tell you stories from the ground that are instructive, that can teach you about how to approach and how to operate in those difficult situations. Her experience illustrates a core truth of mission work. Rigorous reporting is impossible without human engagement. And human engagement, in its turn, is impossible without the interpersonal and intercultural skills needed to reach people who operate far outside formal structures. It's precisely this combination of analytic discipline and empathetic fieldcraft that turns fragmented impressions into meaningful, actionable reporting. Now, we would like to talk briefly about why people, and together with them, missions may fail. Let's address this honestly. The main reason people struggle isn't the lack of motivation, it's the lack of method and structure. Here's what we see across segments. Diplomats, foreign uh, policy professionals, also project planners in the various ministries, and staff workers, they fail because they rely too heavily on political theory or protocol, but not enough on structured modern risk analysis. And very often, I have to tell you, they don't show too little knowledge about what really happens on ground. As far as military and security personnel is concerned, they may fail because they are trained for tactical threats, but not for political, social, and informational complexity. Humanitarian workers, mostly found in NGOs and United Nations missions, they may fail because they operate with enormous pressure, but with tools that are outdated or too simplistic. Now, political analysts and researchers, this concerns myself, incidentally, they may fail because they work with data but lack field intuition and models that capture real uncertainty. Journalists in crisis regions, they fail because they receive fragmented information and struggle to build a coherent picture of events. Students and early career specialists, they may fail because they have theory but no practical framework or mission-tested methodology. Emergency response officials, they may fail because coordination collapses when uncertainty isn't structured properly. Across all groups, the root cause is the same. There's too little integrated, structured method to understand complexity.
So, as you can imagine, this all leads to several mistakes on sadly every level. So, we thought we'd go over some of these to really give you an overview of how many things can go wrong here. So, across sectors, we keep seeing relying on intuition alone instead of combining it with structured analysis. That is one. Reacting instead of anticipating. Sounds simple, but is very difficult for many. Misreading local signals because of cultural blind spots. Overconfidence in incomplete information. Then you have underestimating secondary risks that emerge later. And that's, if you don't have a bigger picture. So poor reporting as well, which leads to poor decisions at higher levels. Not understanding the mandate, resulting in unrealistic expectations or a wasted effort overall. And you have ignoring personal stress factors, which will distort your judgment, especially in a crisis environment.
Another very important aspect is the fact that most people treat uncertainty as noise, as something that inhibits, that makes analysis hard, which is partly true, of course, but you should try to reading it instead as information. And it's precisely one of the virtues of the GeNIe 5.0 modeler that you can introduce exactly this process. You introduce noise as information, as a factor which isn't precisely defined, but which is there and has an influence on the final results. So that is a core mistake. Don't be afraid of noise. Tackle it. And once you fix that, your entire mission performance will change.
Yeah. So why you need a guide and why this training is that guide specifically. So everything we've shared today points basically to one simple solution, and that is you cannot navigate high-risk environments without a structured method to hand. And you should not have to learn by trial and error, especially with high stakes.
This is what course, our Mission Ready course is designed to give you, namely a clear, proven pathway to competence in unstable, high risk, and complex environments. You will not be able to fulfill every task to 100 or 120%. No. But you will have many, many, many little helpers that will be instrumental in your personal success and also in the success of the mission.
So yeah, if you feel that your work or the work that you want to do requires either clarity, resilience, and evidence-based decision making, then you're exactly the person this training was designed for. And will be your guides into this field and help you turn uncertainty into insight together. So before we move to the Q&A session, let me show you what Mission Ready will give you as a participant right now. So this program is for anyone who needs to operate, as we said, confidently in difficult, hostile, or high-risk environments, and where decisions must be made fast and under certainty. So the main outcome of this program is basically gaining the ability to assess complex environments, anticipate risks, and make sound decisions under pressure using methods that have been tried and tested and that actually work in real missions. So you don't just learn about crisis work, you can become someone who can perform and operate, thrive within.
In my experience from various field missions, OSCE, UN, makes no difference actually. This was the skill gap I saw everywhere. That I've told you I had the same skill gaps before I started and before I started my learning process. I would have been glad to have such a course for myself.
Yeah, so if you go into more detail, who specifically is this training for and who is going to benefit the most? So it's across multiple sectors, just as you can see, Professor Hans-Georg and I are from different sectors as well. You have diplomacy and foreign policy as the first, of course. So that's whether you want to go into the fields of diplomats, political advisors, whether you're preparing for international assignments, foreign service trainees. Yeah. So the next part is military, security, and defense analysts. So here we're talking about military officers, mission planners, and intelligence analysts. And yeah, here, as perhaps you might think for yourself, incomplete data or the need for rapid decisions with consequences. That's something that can be real pain points for that industry. So the third one is are the NGO and the humanitarian workers. So here we're talking about positions like coordinators, field officers, or development specialists. And yeah, here some of the points which really will bring you forward is knowing how to deal with safety concerns and the need, the knowledge or the need of operational foresight, how important that is. So, political analysts, researchers, and think tanks is another group here. Then we have journalists in high risk contexts as well. This is, of course, similar to the NGO and humanitarian workers. And then we have students and also early career specialists in international affairs. So this is really for everyone who's just starting out and who wants to step into this field. This is basically one of the one of the best equipments you could be armed with to tackle that new endeavor of yours. So, yeah, that is, of course, linked concerning students, especially to recognized certification. And all of that is needed.
You might be lost in diversity, kind of, but this is what you will see in the typical mission, be it OSCE, be it UN, be it NGOs or whatever. There are all kinds of people. You will meet all kinds of people. Uh, and in these crisis environments, you would feel immediately the requirement of coordination between diplomats, military people, NGO workers, analysts, and media. And these people will be your interlocutors and contacts, not only inside the mission, but also outside the mission. You will have to cooperate with other missions, with a lot of NGO workers, and you have to cooperate with them and find some way to coordinate your activities. And here is the need to speak the same analytical language, and we hope that this course can provide you with this type of language.
Yeah, and Mission Ready is focused around 6 practice-centered sessions. So again, practice-centered. This is one of the really important parts of this. So we have the first focus is international work in difficult, hostile, high-risk environments. So we already mentioned this before, and it's about how to read chaotic, overlapping crises where data is missing or contradictory. So number 2 is no mission without reporting. It's local knowledge plus field analysis is mission success. That's about gathering and structuring fragmented information so it becomes decision ready. Then we have number 3, which is coping with crisis situations and field scenarios, working with unpredictable security threats, escalation, volatility, and sudden change. So counter that and deal with it. Self-assessment as the 4th point, self-assessment as a precaution and foresight tool. So that's about resilience, stress management, awareness of your own operational limits. Because in the end, it's you who's on that mission and who's carrying out anything that needs to be done for this job. So number 5 is the decisive role, mission, mandate, and strategy. So that's about understanding the mandate restrictions, which can be painful, but you must yet follow political constraints and institutional logic. So the 6th one is integrating technology with field operations. This is where it gets really interesting. So this is where tools mentioned before, like GeNIe 5 and the Bayesian reasoning help clean up messy environments and forecast risks.
Now, every session, and I would again like to underline the fact that these are hands-on sessions with a minimum of theoretical considerations and all that. We fully understand. We have been students as well, and we are ordinary people, and people want to listen to stories and narratives. But not any story, but stories that really help you to learn. And we can provide that. We can provide stories from, in inverted commas, stories from Afghanistan, the Balkans, Ukraine, Mali, Cambodia, Sahel, and UN and OSCE missions where I've personally worked, especially in the Caucasus, partly short-term missions in Central Asia, and so on and so forth. And this is not theory. Well, there will be some theory because we have to talk about the GeNIe 5.0 and there is some theoretical background, which is, however, easy to transmit and easy to understand. This is field reality, which is translated into teachable skills and understandable skills.
So I will be going over the program format really quickly. So once again, just like our 6 training sessions, the program is split into 6 parts. So we have the first part, which is the 6 online training sessions. Then we have 2 mind sessions. That's also Q&A with professors. We have the diploma under the auspices of the Austrian Ministry of European and International Affairs. So this is probably for many people the make or break in all of this. This is certified by the Austrian Ministry for European and International Affairs, and many people already have this certification. So the fourth is templates for field analysis and reporting. The fifth is access to practical tools and frameworks, which will be provided. And the sixth is courtesy access to GeNIe 5.0 during training. So for today and for this session specifically, we have 2 tiers of participation that can be chosen from for what we described. And if you stay until the end of this session specifically, there is a discount, and the standard tier version will cost €500, and the VIP section will be for 750. So that is a special discount. Keep that in mind for this session today. So I just quickly wanted to go over what is specifically included in the VIP tier as in comparison to the standard tier, and that is 1 personal session with the instructors. In addition, individual analysis of your field and analytical challenges, really customized and tailored to what you need, and priority feedback and strategic guidance. So that is included in the extra.
Maybe at this point we should also mention that we would like to give you advice on how to build an international career. This is what we think you're after in the first place, and you will find hopefully useful hints and tips how to start a career, how to advance over the various tiers. Now, we think this VIP tier is particularly valuable for professionals preparing for deployment or submitting analytical work for ministries. If you do that, for instance, if you plan to do that, we can advise you on, for instance, your specific task of modeling for an assignment that you get from your superiors, maybe NGOs or international organizations.
So concerning some student results on just some changes that people could see amongst themselves is basically from, feeling unprepared for these chaotic, sometimes dangerous environments to going from for confidence situation assessment under uncertainty. So as we mentioned before, relying mostly on intuition, but now have an ability to anticipate risks and secondary consequences. The difficulty of interpreting incomplete field data, this is a difficult one for many, which then, people will be able to deliver structured reporting with the guidance. Then the fear of just making mission critical mistakes, that is where people really have seen how these tools can help with calm and clarity under pressure. And yeah, the lack of analytical structure that many people struggle with in several fields with uncertainty, so that and helps with the readiness for both field missions and HQ analytical work in this case.
Now, you will feel that there's some repetition in what we're saying here, but we really want to drive home this point because it's really important for building a career, for being successful in any mission. And this transition is exactly what international organizations look for. Many of our alumni reported promotions, mission deployment readiness, and improved analytical responsibilities.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sorry. So, yeah, I wanted to talk once more again, repeating a point which is essential here, talk about what you are receiving, which is the training endorsed by the Austrian Ministry of European and International Affairs, as I mentioned before, an official certificate. So you will also receive field methods used in UN, OSCE, and EU missions. So and practical tools for high-risk operations. So as well, a diploma, which is recognized by international actors. That's very important. A combination of operational institution, analytical foresight, and also access to real mission case studies not available publicly. So yeah, this is the kind of preparation that is usually only available inside large international agencies. Yes. So so yes, as we said before, uh, concerning the payment, where I said before that we have today an exclusive webinar only price. Um, the usual price for the standard tier is 600 and for the VIP tier 900. So it's quite a bargain that one gets for staying in this webinar and seeing where this goes. And also what's possible for both of these payments is a two-time installment plan. So we are adding a final incentive to all of this to make your decision even easier, hopefully. And this is that all participants who join after this webinar, who join during a 48-hour window, will receive exclusive access to the follow-up course. And that is GeNIe 5.0 for international workers. And that's a hands-on training in Bayesian forecasting for real missions. And yeah, this bonus is not available publicly and is provided only to this specific webinar cohort. So basically, just to quickly go through the simplicities, how to register and what happens after payment. So after you register, you will immediately receive a confirmation email. Your personal student account unlocks. You get access to the introductory module. You join the private group for announcement and materials. And you also received instructions for the first live session. Yeah, for the first live session. Exactly.
As far as payment and joining the course is concerned, please look at the right lower corner of the PPP, the presentation, where you find a Q code. If you click this code, you become immediately our students.
Yes. And so just in case you have reservations, which is normal, and certain doubts about whether you should join, saying, for example, that you don't have mission experience, so how can this help you? Here, you do not need it. Many of the students are beginners, and still you will develop a capable skill set. Or, for example, this is one that, yeah, was a big one for me. I'm not technical enough for GeNIe and the Bayesian tools, or just mathematically gifted. So, the training really, it is here is in the VIP tier, it is step by step, and you need zero programming experience. Very important. So, Of course, we're all busy in today's world and have a lot to do, and the sessions are concise. And additionally, all of the recordings are available 24/7 once you have registered and have become a student. So, is this relevant for the sector you work in? Well, if you work with risk, uncertainty, crisis, or international operations, yes. But to be honest, it's more of a risk and uncertainty is always a relevant factor, especially in today's world. So there is barely a place where you wouldn't need it. And another thing is that, one might think this course could be too high level or technical, but the entire course is designed for real people working in hard, time intensive, and dangerous environments. So this is really designed for people to be able to go the path along with the trainers and the people who are overseeing. Yes. Yeah. And now we would go over to
Frequently asked questions.
yes.
So, the language obviously is English, because it is the lingua franca in all missions, almost all missions. I can tell you my experience in my first Cambodia mission, which was a mission to organize elections in Cambodia after the devastating terror rule of the Red Khmer, and we had to prepare elections. And there were actually two heads of mission, a Frenchman and an American. And the most important question seemed to be not how do we organize elections, but what would the first language be, French or English? Now, here we proposed in our course to use English. Certificates, yes, there will be a certificate under the auspices, issued under the auspices of the Austrian Ministry of European International Affairs, which has graciously supported us in former courses. Question: will it help me in my job? This is our hope. We would like to see all of you taking the desired path, using the knowledge you will have acquired in our course. Our students have already used skills for deployments and geo missions as political analysis, in journalism, in defense planning, and also in academic research. So if you don't plan to go to funny places such as Kurdistan or Cambodia or Mali or Somalia, you will be able to use what you have learned in other fields as well, of course. Will I practice? Yes. Real case studies and exercises from active missions, you will find course assignments, not too many because we understand you're busy people, in your personal briefcase, electronic briefcase. Can students join? Absolutely. It's an advantage for applications to international organizations.
So with that, I wanted to go over some of the questions that we have here. Two of them, because they'll be very easy and quickly to answer. The one is from Liane Pouvreau. Thank you very much for your question, Liane. And that is, do we have special tuition fees for young students for the program? So at this point in our pricing, we only have the two tiers equally priced for everyone. So there's the standard tier and the VIP tier that we have. And concerning an anonymous viewer that asked if it would be possible to book this course through vouchers provided by the Agentur für Arbeit to unemployed people or soon to be. Honestly, thank you for the idea. This is definitely something to consider and so the answer to this question would be soon to be.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So those are the answers to those two questions. And then we have from Cole Gray another question right here. Let me see. Okay, right here.
Uh-huh. Three questions in one. When you use this system to create risk analysis, what was the mission that your data proved the most accurate the systems to the client, and what was the one where it wasn't a positive result for the client, and why did it not go? Yeah. Thank you for the question. It's extremely important. I can start with the case I mentioned, namely the uh, assignment I had got by the head of mission uh, to produce a situation analysis concerning the persecution probability. I used this later on when I worked as a consultant for the High Administrative Court in Austria as a country specialist for Chechnya. And the background for all this is that there is a ruling that had been before that had been handed down by the highest, the Supreme Administrative Court of Austria, to the effect that asylum, that this was in asylum on asylum cases, asylum would be granted to people who could produce a 50% probability of persecution. Now, this by itself is very strange, but I tried to transform this to a reasonable statistical analysis using Bayesian reasoning and the Bayesian modeler, which I had acquired in the meantime. And that really worked out. I think that's a good example how you can apply what you have learned in the field or what you applied in the field, what you can use in other fields as well. Okay, other questions?
We have one more question from Evelyn O'Brien. That is, what is the time frame to complete the program and how often do we run it?
Well, to tell you the truth, this is a pilot project. We had similar courses at universities, at academies, diplomatic academies, and all that. We tried to transfer more or less the same knowledge about skills in field missions, but we are planning to repeat this course in due time. We have no concrete time frame to propose to you, but you can be sure that the course will be repeated and it will be an improved course based on the experience we will have, among other things, by clever, smart questions like the one you have posted.
Yes, so we have another question which has already been answered previously, but I'll just go over it. What about the unemployed humanitarian professionals recently impacted by budget cuts? Are there special tuition fees? So as I said, at this time, our pricing has two models, the same for everyone, standard and VIP. And there will be a discount for the viewers who are on this Zoom call right now. Yes. Okay.
Okay, if there are no further questions, we're looking forward to seeing you in our course, and thank you for your patience to listen to us for such a long time period.
Yes, thank you very much for your attention. It's been quite a time. And just last but not least, the promo code, which you will receive for being a part of this Zoom call, the 15% off code you will receive per email. So thank you once again very much for your attention and for listening.
Goodbye, good evening, or whatever the time is.
Exactly. Good morning if you're unlucky. Thank you.